Hey, what's up guys? So, can dry fire practice at home tame your recoil anticipation when you're actually shooting live rounds? Yes, it can. Okay, most of you might think that recoil anticipation is something that you want to stop. Notice how I said tame for a reason, because you don't want to stop anticipating recoil. It's natural. The pros do it. That's how you shoot fast and accurately. If you did not anticipate recoil, every single shot you take is going to have insane muzzle flip. Okay, you're never going to be able to get on target and go bam, 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 bam. Okay, so the issue is that you anticipate the recoil before you actually pull the trigger, okay? Remember that. I said it's a timing issue, right? So I'm gonna show you what you need to do to make it easy to time. You need to understand the way your trigger works. Now, all these guns are unloaded, so if you're deciding to play with your gun too, as I'm talking, make sure that your gun's unloaded. And remember that I'm not responsible for your TV being busted, anything that you decide to destroy, whether that be a person, animal, or... I'm starting off with this Glock pistol because this just makes it really easy to teach what I need to teach you guys. So, you need to be comfortable with navigating through this entire process. If you have a P320, you know, triggers are different. Not all triggers are the same, but generally all triggers have some slack. If your gun doesn't have slack, you could still take from this video. Just listen to me. You need to be comfortable navigating through this entire area, okay? This is the slack. This is the wall where it stops. And then this is how you discharge the gun. The reason why your timing is off, the reason why you're anticipating the recoil before you actually discharge the gun is because you are starting from somewhere along this process, or even out here, and you are not starting here. When you make the decision that you want to shoot, and if you're doing it from here or somewhere in this nether region, you have room for error. You have guesswork to do. So you're like, I want to shoot, right? And then you're anticipating recoil, and you have a whole trigger pull process is still complete before you actually make the round go off. You want to prep the trigger. Prepping the trigger means taking up the slack on the gun. So when you get on target, you should be here already. This is the wall of resistance. This is what prepping the trigger means, okay? That's what you call prepping the trigger. You want to take your shots from here, no matter what the gun is. P320, okay? Slack, trigger wall. This is the wall of resistance. You want to be here when you take your shot. To get even more technical, trigger walls are all different. Even on the same firearm, if I get another Glock 19, Glock 23, this is the Glock 23, even if I get another one of these, the trigger wall is gonna be different. So even though I'm here, and then if I pull a little harder, the gun goes off. Pay attention really closely here. There's still some mush and some travel that you need to master. And you master this with dry fire practice. Because even this little variation, even though you prep the trigger, that's enough to throw your timing off. So you need to understand when you're dry practicing how much pressure that you can put on this wall before you discharge the gun. And so I will talk about this now. This is a P320. This trigger, the slack is very light, so it's easy to take up the slack. It's easy to prep the trigger. Now, the sucky part about a P320 is that the wall on a P320 is a little less defined. There's a lot more room for timing error. Can you see that I'm wiggling this trigger? The wall starts here, but there's still more to go. Triggers that are like that make it harder to be precise. They make it harder to time the your recoil anticipation. Remember, you want it to have for after the shot. And since there's so much variation, even after you've taken up the slack, that's what makes it difficult, but dry fire practice helps. This is my main gun as of lately. I don't live fire anymore. I don't shoot with live ammo anymore for training. I do compete. I'm a USPSA competitor. I compete often, and the only time I live fire, the only time I shoot real rounds is when I'm actually competing, which is not what you want to do. But out of like 40 people, or out of like 40 participants, I generally place around like the top 5. I'm not saying that like I don't need to train anymore. No, me not firing live rounds prevents me from having recoil control, which means that I have a problem trying to shoot fast, but I can put my rounds where I want them to go. Anyway, now that you understand what you need to do with the trigger, you need to be comfortable with it. And now this is where problems arise, okay? When you go out to the range, when you actually fire that live round, the number one problem is that people abandon what I just told you. You start to get a little scared, you're not on that wall and with all the pressure that you need to anymore. Now you're just taking shots just from the trigger face. Slapping the trigger, honestly, you're just taking shots from here now. Oh, you're just taking shots like from here now. You have to master like the trigger. You need to know that when you're actually ready to take the shot, you're like, I know that this is all the pressure I need. Boom! And then you can time your recoil anticipation properly. If you're just doing dry practice, okay, a flaw you might be doing, a flaw that I see people do all the time, which tells me the level of skill that they're at, is I see them go like this. Now, their trigger finger is just high and register because they're being safe, right? But as long as you check your gun and make sure that it's clear, you should be practicing the trigger press process every single time you dry fire. It is such an important rep that you are missing out on. So as you draw, you need to be prepping the trigger before, and once you get on target, you should be ready to freaking boom. So you should be prepping the trigger and applying that pressure needed to be ready to go. So what do I mean when I say that specifically? I'm prepping, and even though I have gotten to the wall, I'm applying the familiar pressure that I have built. I know how much pressure I can put on this trigger before I make this gun discharge. This is just how to practice. You're probably thinking more practical wise, like, oh, I'm gonna shoot someone by accident. Reputable instructors teach this. And also, I'm regurgitating what people that are paid to teach people say, reputable people. You should not be pointing a gun at someone if you don't want to shoot them, okay? So if you're worried about being on this trigger wall and accidentally shooting someone, the problem is you're pointing a gun at someone that you don't want to shoot. You should be here at low ready, or you should be at compressed ready, or the gun shouldn't be out at all. But I don't want to talk about that. I'm not qualified to teach that stuff. But that's just what they say, okay? So again, one more time, what you should be doing if you're practicing your draw stroke is prepping the trigger and applying pressure to the wall. So that way you can get a nice trigger press. If you don't have a holster, and you don't need to work from a holster if you don't have one, but you could practice from here. This is compressed ready. It's a very practical position to start, just like this. And you could actually get more reps too if you don't even work from the holster. I'm just going like this. Sorry, guys. Okay? Even after the reload. The more situations you can put on yourself to test how well you're prepping the trigger right afterwards, the better. Because that's the main problem when it comes to recoil anticipation, is sometimes if something crazy happens, whether it's a reload or if you just got done rapid firing and now you have to, like if you shoot something close, you could slap the trigger. I can even go like this and hit the target if it's really close. But as soon as you have to actually use the fundamentals again, are you following what I said? So that's why you have to master this. And that's what you need to remember when you're actually out there on the range shooting. If you master that here, you will be fine out there because it's muscle memory. It's hardwired in your DNA. So after you discharge the gun and you're ready to shoot another round, there's a whole process that you need to follow to make sure that you're following through the process from the first round to the last round of the mag. It's so easy. The most common problem is that people, when they fire like the first 2 rounds or something, they forget, and then they ditch what they know, and they start to end up slapping the trigger. It's really easy to ditch that when you start shooting close and going far, or shooting close and shooting precise. That's where those are exercises. Those are actually really good exercises to make sure that you master the press. So I'm going to use this airsoft gun. It'll help me demonstrate what I'm talking about really easily. So you took up the slack, right? And then when you pull the trigger, you want to come back on the wall. You want to prep the trigger as fast as possible. So in theory, when you're shooting, and I have a really bad grip just so I can demonstrate to you guys. So I'm going to simulate recoil too. So as I'm shooting, I want to be back on the wall. See how I can't even prep it anymore because I already prepped it. You want to make sure you do that every time you shoot. Okay, so boom. Just like that. You need to master that at home. The more time you get on that wall after each shot, the better your timing is going to be, the better your accuracy is going to be. So if you don't have an airsoft gun at home, you don't need one. A trick I do with the Glock is I'll actually just not pull the trigger. And you could depress it, you could rack it, come off, and rest back on it, and then take your shot. You don't want to pin the trigger to the rear, slowly come off, and pull the trigger as soon as you hear that click. You want to make sure that when you come off, you give it some time, that you're rested on it, you have the proper pressure, and then pull the trigger. Another practice I do is just don't pull the trigger at all, or don't discharge the gun at all. But I will simulate recoil just softly like this, and I will also I'll go like this, look. I'll just go boom, come off, and come right back on that wall. Boom, come off, come right back on the wall. So you understand the timing of everything. This is honestly a really good technique right here. It's just, basically I go up first, I let go, come right back on. If you can master this simple process, you're in good hands, trust me. So important what I was just talking about right there, and that's gonna help you with all your issues. All your debt will be gone. Taming your recoil anticipation is going to put you on target, because the thing that's gonna throw you off target the most is the anticipation. That's trigger finger placement, your straight, nice trigger press. That stuff is like fine tuning. That's stuff that you can get to later. That's not even what I'm talking about now. But what's going to actually throw you off target is recoil anticipation. So a few more techniques that you could do at home real quick is, if you don't have a holster, if you don't want to work from a holster, you could do the compressed ready like I was talking about, or you could do from low ready. I'm prepping the trigger as I'm getting on target. Or yeah, compressed ready or low ready. You can just do that over and over, and you have to master it at home before you go to the range. You can't be okay with it at home and go to the range. You're still gonna run into the same issues eventually. You have to master it at home. Now, that's about it. Like I said, this topic is easy. You know what you need to know, but it's very easy to overlook it once you get to the range. Now, if you like this video, please like it. If you didn't like it, like it. If you want to support the channel, this is what I do. I make these holsters. So if you ever wanted a holster in this style, you can get one. All you have to do is just Google Etsy and civilian standards, and I'll be the first result on Google. Or if you just type in civilian standards, you should be able to find me on my Etsy store really easily. Thanks for watching, guys. I did about 20 takes on this video because it was way too long, and this is honestly as fast as I can get it down to.